Have you ever been in a situation so tight that logic feels too small and you catch yourself whispering, "Please, let something change"? Have you ever wondered why the word miracle feels childish to some people, yet becomes the most honest word on your lips when you are afraid and exhausted? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to step into a story many people live, but do not always talk about. The story of praying for a miracle when life feels unbearable. Some people hear prayer and think it is only religion. Some people hear miracle and think it is only fantasy. But if we listen closely, we realize most people are not asking the universe for a magic show. They are asking for relief. They are asking for a door to open. They are asking for strength to keep going. They are asking to be held when they feel alone. And I want you to carry two main ideas through this entire video. First, prayer can be a practice that reorganizes the mind, turning panic into presence and despair into steady action. Second, what we call a miracle is often karma meeting courage, meeting causes, meeting conditions in a way we could not predict. And the condition we most control is the mind we cultivate in the middle of difficulty. Let me begin with a scene that feels painfully familiar. A person sits in a room at night. The lights are low. The phone is nearby. The mind keeps looping. Bills, health results, a relationship breaking, a family problem, a legal issue, a school crisis, a feeling of being trapped. They have tried thinking, planning, arguing, distracting, and none of it has made the fear leave. The body is tired, but the mind is awake like an alarm that will not shut off. In the silence, they finally say something simple, not polished, not impressive. "Please help me." That sentence can come from any tradition or none. It can be spoken to God, to the universe, to a teacher, to the goodness of life, to a future version of oneself, or to the deepest quiet intelligence inside awareness. The target is less important than the movement happening in the heart, because the movement is this: I cannot do this alone in the way I have been trying to do it. That recognition is not weakness, it is humility. And humility is the beginning of wisdom. When the ego stops pretending it controls everything, space opens. When space opens, new responses become possible. When new responses become possible, the situation can change. So before we talk about miracles, we need to talk about the mind that asks for them. In Buddhism, there is a very grounded teaching that sounds almost too simple. Suffering has causes. When you see the causes, you can change the conditions. And one of the most important causes is the state of mind you bring to the moment. A panicked mind multiplies suffering. A steady mind reduces suffering. A bitter mind spreads suffering. A compassionate mind transforms suffering. So prayer, when used wisely, is not an escape from cause and effect. It is a way to return to cause and effect with a better mind. Now let us talk about the word miracle without mocking it. A miracle, in the way most people mean it, is not necessarily a violation of nature. It is an interruption of despair. It is an opening when everything felt closed. It is a timely help. It is a sudden shift. It is an unexpected kindness. It is the right person calling at the right moment. It is a solution appearing after months of dead ends. It is a diagnosis turning out better than feared. It is the inner strength to endure what you thought you could not endure. Sometimes the miracle is external. Sometimes the miracle is internal. And sometimes the internal miracle is the reason the external miracle becomes possible. Because when your mind steadies, you act differently. You see options you could not see. You ask for help you were too ashamed to ask for. You listen instead of reacting. You make one wise decision that changes the trajectory. So let me tell you a longer story, the kind that carries the heart of this teaching. There was a person I will call Elena. Elena had a season of life that felt like one long emergency. It started with something that looked small, a little problem that became 3 problems, 3 problems that became 10 problems. Elena was trying to keep a job, support family, and manage a health issue that kept flaring up. The days became a blur of appointments, emails, and trying to look normal while feeling scared. Friends would ask, "How are you?" and Elena would say fine, because explaining felt too heavy. One night Elena received news that felt like the final straw. It was not only the content of the news, it was the feeling of being cornered. Elena sat on the floor, back against the bed, and for the first time in years cried without trying to stop. And between breaths Elena whispered a prayer for a miracle. Now, here is what mattered. Elena did not pray like a performance. Elena prayed like a surrender. Not surrender as giving up on action, but surrender as releasing the illusion that fear is the only intelligence available. Elena said something like this: "I do not know what to do. I am scared. I cannot see the way out. Please give me a sign, a door, a little light. Please help me do the next right thing. Please protect the people I love. Please help me hold this without breaking." And then something subtle happened. The breath slowed a little. The chest softened a little. The mind did not become perfect, but it stopped thrashing. Elena sat there unkept breathing, and the prayer continued, not as words only, but as an intention. Let me become steady enough to act wisely. This is where prayer becomes practice, because what Elena did in that moment was shift from pure panic into a relationship with something larger than panic. In Buddhist language, you could say Elena touched refuge. Refuge is not about escaping reality. Refuge is about finding a stable orientation inside reality. It can be refuge in awakened qualities, refuge in compassion, refuge in wisdom, refuge in the possibility of clarity. Elena woke the next day and the problems were still there, but something had changed. Elena made one phone call that had been avoided out of shame. Elena asked for help. Elena spoke honestly to a friend. Elena contacted an organization that offered practical support. Elena wrote down the problems and separated what could be acted on today from what could not. This is an important detail. The miracle did not arrive as fireworks. It arrived as capacity. Capacity is often the first miracle, because when you are overwhelmed, capacity feels impossible. You feel frozen, scattered, ashamed, angry, or numb. When capacity returns, you can move. Now over the next weeks, a series of small events happened. Not supernatural, but timely. A friend offered a connection. A professional gave a clearer explanation. A payment plan became available. A misunderstanding resolved. A health symptom improved slightly after a change in routine. None of these alone was a movie miracle, but together they changed the whole landscape. And Elena noticed something. The more Elena prayed, the more Elena also practiced. The prayer was no longer only "please fix this." It became "please make me wise. Please make me patient. Please make me honest. Please help me act with compassion even when I am scared. Please help me not spread my fear onto people I love." That is where the teaching becomes powerful for all of us, because the most dangerous thing about difficult situations is not only the situation, it is what the situation can turn you into if you do not train the mind. A crisis can turn you harsh. It can turn you selfish. It can turn you dishonest. It can turn you cruel, not because you are bad, but because the nervous system goes into survival, and survival can shrink the heart. So a miracle prayer, when it is truly deep, is also a vow. Do not let this pain make me harmful. Do not let this fear make me forget compassion. Do not let this uncertainty make me lose wisdom. Help me keep my heart intact. In Buddhist terms, this is practice in the fire. This is where awakening stops being an idea and becomes a lived path. Now let us talk about karma in a way that does not blame the person who suffers. Karma is often misunderstood as you deserve whatever happens. That is not a helpful or accurate way to use the concept in real life, especially when someone is hurting. A wiser way to understand karma for our purposes today is that every moment contains causes and conditions. Some conditions come from the past, some come from society, some come from other people, some come from biology, some come from choices we made without realizing the consequences. Life is complex. We cannot always trace every thread, but we can always work with the thread of the present moment. The present moment is where you plant new causes. If you plant causes of panic, you tend to harvest confusion. If you plant causes of clarity, you tend to harvest better options. If you plant causes of anger, you tend to harvest conflict. If you plant causes of compassion, you tend to harvest support and cooperation. So prayer can be understood as a way to plant better causes internally, which then changes the causes you plant externally. When you pray, you slow down. When you slow down, you see. When you see, you choose. When you choose, karma shifts. This is not a guarantee that everything becomes easy, but it is a guarantee that you stop adding extra suffering. Now I want to take you into another story from a different angle, because many viewers have experienced a difficult situation where the pain is not only practical, it is relational. Imagine someone named Marcus who is going through a relationship crisis. Someone they love is pulling away. Conversations turn into fights. Silence becomes heavy. Marcus feels rejected and tries to fix it by pushing harder, texting more, demanding answers, replaying every detail. The more Marcus pushes, the more the other person retreats. The mind becomes a courtroom. Marcus gathers evidence, builds arguments, imagines worst outcomes. One night Marcus feels the chest pain of jealousy, the stomach drop of abandonment fear, and the humiliation of not being chosen. Marcus does not even think of prayer as something for them, but the pain is so raw that Marcus whispers anyway, "Please help me not destroy this with my fear." That is a different kind of miracle prayer. Not "please make them love me," but "please help me act with dignity." Marcus breathes and repeats the prayer, and slowly Marcus realizes the mind is trying to control what cannot be controlled. You cannot force another person's heart open. You can only open your own heart and choose your behavior. The next day Marcus apologizes for the pressure. Marcus asks for a calm conversation. Marcus listens more. Marcus sets boundaries where needed but without threat. The relationship still may end, because life is impermanent. But something important happens either way. Marcus stops being dragged by panic. Marcus stops turning love into possession. And that is a miracle too, because one of the hardest miracles is learning to love without clinging, to care without controlling, to speak truth without cruelty, to accept outcomes without collapsing. Now let me tie this back to a broader spiritual frame that many traditions share. When people pray for a miracle, they often want the outer world to change. And sometimes the outer world does change. But the deeper path is to realize that the most reliable miracle is the one you can cultivate. The miracle of a mind that returns to the breath. the miracle of a heart that stays compassionate under pressure, the miracle of patience when you want to explode, the miracle of honesty when lying would feel safer, the miracle of humility when pride wants to protect you, the miracle of asking for help when shame tries to isolate you. These are not small. These are huge, because these inner miracles change your destiny. Destiny is not only what happens to you. Destiny is what you become through repeated choices. In a crisis, every small choice becomes louder. The mind is under stress, so habits show. If you train better habits, you become someone who can walk through difficulty without losing your humanity. That is why the spiritual message behind miracle prayer is not childish at all. It is mature. It is a recognition that life is bigger than your plans, and therefore you must cultivate qualities that can ride waves rather than break under them. Now let us make this practical in a way you can use the next time life feels unbearable. When you feel trapped, the mind tends to do three things. It time travels into the worst future. It rewrites the past with regret. It judges the present as unacceptable. Prayer can interrupt these moves by bringing attention back to the moment and widening perspective. A simple miracle prayer, even if you are not religious, can be shaped like this. Help me see clearly. Help me calm down enough to choose wisely. Help me treat others with compassion while I protect myself. Help me take the next right step. Help me accept what I cannot change today without giving up on what I can change. Notice what is happening here. This kind of prayer is not passive. It is training. It is asking to align with wisdom. In Buddhist language, it is like taking refuge in awakened qualities. In other traditions, it is surrender to divine guidance. In psychological language, it is self-regulation and values-based action. Different words, same movement. Now let us talk about why this matters for young people too. Because many younger viewers face difficult situations that adults sometimes dismiss. 18 might be dealing with intense school stress, social pressure, family conflict, identity confusion, or loneliness. These are not small problems in the inner world. They can feel like the whole universe. 18 might pray for a miracle like, please let them stop talking about me. Please let me not fail. Please let my parents stop fighting. Please let me feel normal. And here is the key. Even if the outer situation does not change overnight, the practice can change how the teen carries it. The teen can learn to breathe, to talk to a trusted adult, to take one step at a time, to stop spiraling, to stop making one bad day into a whole identity. That inner shift can protect a life, so never mock the desire for a miracle. It is often a desire for safety and care. The wise move is to guide that desire into practice and support, not into fantasy alone. Now let us address one more important point. Sometimes people pray and nothing changes immediately, and they feel betrayed. They think prayer did not work, or they think they are not worthy, or they think the universe is cruel. This is where we need wisdom and tenderness. Prayer is not a vending machine. It is not a contract. It is a relationship. And sometimes the answer is not the outcome you hoped for. Sometimes the answer is strength. Sometimes the answer is a different door. Sometimes the answer is a longer timeline. Sometimes the answer is the courage to accept a hard truth and move forward. In Buddhist terms, we could say we do not fully control conditions. We can influence conditions. But impermanence and complexity mean outcomes are not always immediate or predictable. That is why the practice focuses on what we can cultivate reliably. We can cultivate a calmer nervous system. We can cultivate clearer perception. We can cultivate compassion. We can cultivate patience. We can cultivate ethical action. We can cultivate community. These are conditions that make better outcomes more likely, and they also make any outcome more bearable. Now I want to bring in the idea of compassion for others, because difficult situations often make us self-focused, not because we are selfish, but because fear narrows attention. A powerful twist in miracle prayer is to include others. Please help the people who are suffering like me. Please help me not spread my pain. Please help me become someone who can help others when I have strength again. This is not moral pressure. It is a way to widen the heart. And widening the heart reduces panic, because panic says I am alone. Compassion says I belong to life. Belonging is medicine. Now let us end with a final story that ties everything together. There was an elderly man named Thomas who faced a difficult situation late in life. His health declined and he could not do what he used to do. He felt useless. He felt angry at his own body. He felt afraid of being a burden. He prayed for a miracle to be healed. Over time, the healing he wanted did not arrive the way he imagined, but another kind of miracle arrived. He began practicing gratitude for small moments. He began speaking more gently to his family. He began telling stories to his grandchildren. He began apologizing for old harshness. He began offering advice with kindness. He began smiling more. The house around him became warmer. The family felt closer. Fear became less dominant. Thomas still had limitations, but he found meaning. And that is what many miracles actually are. A shift from misery to meaning. A shift from panic to presence. A shift from bitterness to tenderness. A shift from isolation to connection. A shift from control to trust. A shift from suffering multiplied to suffering held with wisdom. That is a miracle you can practice. So if you are in a difficult situation right now, and you are listening to this, I want you to remember this. You do not have to be perfectly brave. You do not have to be perfectly calm. You only have to take the next wise breath, then the next wise step. Ask for help. Speak honestly. Rest when you need to. Protect your heart from becoming cruel. Let prayer be a way to return to what matters. And if something unexpected opens, receive it with gratitude. If nothing opens yet, keep planting causes, because even when you cannot see it, your practice is changing you. And the you that emerges from the storm will shape the rest of your destiny. Thank you for being here with me. If you feel comfortable, share in the comments a time you asked for a miracle and what happened, whether it was an outer change or an inner change. Share what helps you stay steady when life feels too heavy. And if you want more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment to support this community. I will see you in the next one.